Alrighty, guys, how's it going, everyone? It's been a while since I posted. I'm happy to be back and to share some notes with you. Okay, I got some tea here. I got my patience. Okay, and so in whatever space and time these messages come to you, I hope it helps you ascend and be the best version of yourself. Okay, I may do a reading after this, maybe in a separate video, or maybe at the end of this video. I'm not sure yet. We're still contemplating that part. Okay. With that being said, let's get into these messages, these downloads. One of the major ones that came to me that I just want to be clear as well that all these messages, all these things already exist. Okay. You have to be in a certain frequency, a certain level of thinking in order to actually catch them from the ether, though. Okay. All this spiritual stuff is individual. It's an individual journey. Okay. What you hear, somebody else may not be able to hear because they are not vibrating on the same channel, same frequency. Okay. It's not really hierarchy. It just has to do with the state of being. Okay. Nor is it a competition. Okay. This is a very individual journey. Your soul ascension has everything to do with you and only you. Okay. You just have different reflections of, I guess, where you're vibrational, where you're vibrating by the people around you, the scenarios around you. Okay, and you get to pick and choose which things you want to transcend, which things you want to detach from. But this is all individual thing. It's your expression of self and being here on your soul journey. Okay. All right. So one of the major things that I heard was that some would rather be comforted by the devil than to be humble before God. Okay. Now, when we start speaking about the devil, Satan energy, which means different things in different cultures. In this space, we're talking about temptation. We're talking about karmic lessons, right? This is why a lot of people fear Saturn energy, Satan energy, whatever energy, whatever it is that you hear when I say this. Okay, sometimes it instills fear because maybe that person's not living righteously, right? If the word the devil or whatever these things, if it instills fear into you, it means that you have given your power away in some way. Okay. It has to do with temptation, acts against God. Okay. In which you get the returns from, right? Because everything is balanced and everything is connected. All right. I remember God created these things in order for you to have the free will of choice, in order to have a self-expression. Okay. So it's always a choice. So it makes no sense being fearful of temptation. Okay. I remember there was a younger version of me who said this thing, just like, I am the devil, which I did not understand at the time was that I was casting a certain spell on myself as to calling myself temptation. Okay. And which really nothing comes good from that, because I don't want to disrupt anyone's will or serve as a distraction for their ascension. Okay. So that why those things had to be retracted. Okay. But you live and you learn. All right. Let's keep going, my friend. Okay, so some people would rather be comforted by temptation. You don't have to use the word the devil if it's, making you all spooky. All right. Some people are comforted by temptation rather than humbling themselves before God. Okay, that is the direct path of humility. Okay, some people rather stay in egoic states of mindset. Okay, because it gives a quick vigoration. All right, and then they get stuck there. Okay, they get stuck in Anansi's web, which is also symbolism of Satan as well, right? But if you get caught in Anansi's web or the devil's playground, okay, the best way to get out of it is to realize and pinpoint, why are you in resonance with this? Okay, and which part of your will aren't you able to bring forth in order to get out? Okay, because I don't know if you guys are realizing right now, in whatever time and space you're seeing this, But in my current timeline, things are getting a little real. Those who are not doing the particular healing work within themselves, their egos are making them crash out like this. Okay, they're getting picked off one by one. If you think, like I said, you can't serve two masters, and then when your master, whoever you're serving, comes to collect, they collect. Okay, and it's a choice. Everything is a choice. Okay, this is not supposed to be. It's not dogma. It's just you just gotta have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Okay. Now, if you decide that you want to be in your egoic lower level natures, wounded on lower level natures of lust, greed, anger, right? Because these things give your vessel these little momentarily that's not the word I want to say, but if these things give your body instant satisfaction for a moment, that little thing right there can stop you from actually ascending, bringing that oil up from your kundalini up to your third eye chakra, and you'll be able to see. You become blinded. Okay, that's why people say when they're doing, I don't even say it, but if you can read between the lines, please just pick it up. If not, which you probably can't if you decided to give way to the lower level frequencies without ascending that energy all the way up. Okay. That's okay. You're going to get there in your next cycle. Okay. Especially if you're downloading certain consciousness. Okay. Actively downloading consciousness and then implementing it, allowing it to actually be embodied into your vessel. Okay. So let's take a pause. Okay. So when you decide to let lower level energies, when you start to give your power away to these lower level energies, what starts happening though is that you do get cut off from divine light of God. Okay, the presence of God, it leaves you momentarily. Okay, because you could just make different choices. You can make different choices to yield better results. But again, everything is cyclic. Okay, and depending on what you have done in your past, especially when you're embarking onto a new spiritual journey, what I have also noticed is people who actually change their hair when they become more natural in their being. There's certain rites of passage that's required, especially since you've already lived, right? And so what starts happening is you start reliving things in the past and collecting different fragments of yourself that you've left during certain acts and certain rituals that you participated in before becoming supernatural, or you become natural first and you become supernatural. So once you start coming back from Babylon ways, okay, there's fragment pieces of your soul scattered in areas of your past, and they will resurface as you are moving into a new paradigm, changing the way that you think, the way that you act, the way that you conduct yourself. Okay. Alrighty. So stay with me now. All right, so what we also have here, I'm just going to start actually reading from my notes and then just applying whatever ad libs I have. Okay. What's problematic is that women often have been taught about their masculine energy from wounded masculines. These are the men whom did not find God. Now, I'm not talking about religion, by the way. Okay. I'm talking about the feminine counterparts made physical, only attracted through the heart space. Okay. I just opened the book and started reading, but before that message, there's this note that women embody God's frequency and men must find God in order to be connected to it. Okay. Everyone has an X chromosome. Once you start actually living and embodying that to its max power, that's the God gene. The God gene. Okay. That's your divinity. That's how you embody divinity. Okay. So that is through the heart space. You have to be able to connect to your heart space in order for you to actually find God and connect with God. Okay, a lot of other people preach different things. I know I've heard someone say that God lives in their pum pum. It's everything is all connected, by the way, but the gates to heaven comes from the heart. Okay, this is why you think even in the Kemetic practices, right? Your heart gets weighed on a scale. Okay, if it's heavy, if your heart is heavy, it gets eaten by this demon. Okay, you belong to them. Okay, you live. That's like the fastest way to hell. Okay, and you can't lie. Okay, God knows the contents of your heart. Okay, now what starts happening though once you start moving around in your heart space and connecting to divinity through here, right? The way that you think starts changing, right? And your body receives messages wholly. Okay, holy. Okay, so don't get too caught up, even though that may be their experience. It really isn't neither here nor there. I'm just telling you what I have seen by watching certain crash outs, certain people say certain things, and then seeing what their authentic experience actually is, with the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Okay. Okay. Femininity comes with a big responsibility. Their values are what gets passed down. Okay. Their consciousness shapes society. The women in your society shapes the consciousness of society. Okay? Just when people say, are you right with God? They're asking, are you right with your feminine counterpart? Okay? Now, we all have both energies. That's like what I was just saying, bringing it back. What's problematic, though, is that the feminine energy learned about their masculine energy from most likely wounded masculine figures, where it be their fathers who abandon their responsibility, which is not in divinity. Okay, that's wounded masculine that's toxic, whatever words you want to put in to say that it's not moving of God. Okay, these are the energies that chose lower level energies in order to be their godhead, which most likely is less men who don't want to grow up. And again, this is energy I'm talking about, right? If they learned it from their mothers, it's because the mothers also had wounded masculine energy. Could have been lust, could have been the thing that took them out, right? It's a real thing. Anger, not being able to be patient. This is where the feminine energy comes in. The divine feminine energy comes in here. Okay. Um, that's what, hold on. All right. Now you can never attract what you are not. Okay. And this is where divine accountability comes from as well. Okay. Being able to, what? All right. I'm sorry. Okay. Puma is over here. There's like a mosquito or something, but I think she just killed it. Okay. You can never attract what you are not. Okay. You only attract what you are. Okay. And that's on both polarities of masculine and feminine energies. Okay. So this is why it's good to get right within. What's your divine masculinity doing? Are you accountable for your actions? Do you display the discipline to attain the things that you want to see grow? Do you have the accountability? Do you have these things? When you think divine masculine being energy, you have to embody this. When you think about divine femininity, this is something embodied. It's not something in theory or what you think you're going to do. You have to legit sit down and do that particular shadow work in order for you to see who you actually are and where you're actually resonating at. Okay? Through life, you must cultivate both masculine and femininity to access divinity. Okay? Humanity lives in the physical, divinity lives in the spiritual. Okay, but you want to bring it. You're trying to bring that down into your physical so that you and your human side are of one. Okay. Now, what has happened though is that everyone claims humanity when they choose not to operate in divinity. And that's where you get the whole idea, I'm only human. I'm only human. Yeah, what you're doing is casting a spell on yourself that's a void of accountability. And actually, demonic spirits can easily work through your vessel when you decide to do that. Okay. Blame it on your humanity when really there's different types of humans. Where are you on the humanity scale? Okay. There was a chart that I posted on my Instagram, and I think it's somewhere on my YouTube as well as a video cover. I think it's entitled How to Get Out of the Frequency of Hell. That is a resonance chart. Okay. That is a resonance chart. Okay. You need to understand that even though there are lower level energies on that chart, it doesn't mean that you can just blame your humanity on it. Humanity can look like different things. Okay. Humane, being a humane person. Okay. It doesn't mean that you purposely choose lower level entities to embody and then say, I'm human. So I'm telling you, there's certain demons who will, certain level energy, demonic energies, right? Those who've just given up on their feminine side, definitely given up on their divinity, cultivating their divine feminine or divine masculine. They could cultivate the divine masculine, but they've given up on their heart. Okay. They will literally let you know. Okay. These are the type of people who prefer the company of man than the company of women. And I don't mean this by like sex, gender. I'm talking about the energy. Okay. They do not appreciate nor want to actually cultivate or learn how to cultivate their own feminine energy by being around feminine women. Okay. They prefer the company of men. Okay. Which leads to a certain society as well. Okay. If you just have the eyes to see and ears to hear, you can see that. All right. Now, I need to pause that part what I was talking about. Okay. All right. So yeah, so you're moving with this energy that you're blaming your humanity. So there's certain demonic energies in the unseen, okay, that will manipulate you because you have this as a scapegoat, right? It reminds me of that movie Dogma, right? Where one of the demons of inspiration who was very egoic, right? I inspire, I inspire. This is a spirit that actually can embody, demonic spirits can embody anybody's vessel as long as they have given access, okay? Or access to partake in the ritual of that. Okay. And so they start framing their consciousness like, you are the reason why this person's doing this. You are the reason. It's like an ego glorification. But like I said, the fall for that is really harsh. Okay. And then you can actually see those who have the eyes to see and the ears can hear, can see the transformation of when that balloon gets popped. Okay. So be very mindful of what you're taking credit for. Okay. Especially as it comes to the journey of others. Because like I told you, all of these thought forms are just already existing. You align yourself with certain thought forms in order to grab and then transmute. You can share with others. You don't have to. You can grab and transmute, put it in your journal. Okay. And then you just move on with your life. You don't have to communicate this with other people. But if you do, hopefully you're doing it from a place of divinity rather than an ego boost. And you can often tell which one's which by looking at the individual giving the message. Are they in competitive energy with anybody else? If not, this is a true sign, right? That the message delivered without any nonsense. If they are, watch them through different cycles. You see this. It's an inflated ego situation. Like I said, demonic energies use vessels like these because they are emitting a false light. They can even, I'm not saying they don't do their own shadow work, but as they're trying to get out of the darkness, because like I said earlier, that they decided to shut off the light of God, shut off the presence of God, and they'd rather cling to their devils, their temptations, okay, in order to give them some kind of comfort, that has its own cost, and it's higher than actually just humbling yourself. Okay, humbling yourself requires for you to subdue your ego. Okay, but for some reason, a lot of people have built their entire confidence off of that, rather than divine alignment and divine understanding. Okay, so now I want to talk about the beginning part of my notes that I have here. This is a lot of stuff I've sent. I'm really trying to bring in things that I understand on a cellular level. I'm trying to give you like these little bites, okay? But like I said, this is just seeds to be planted. Once you start actually incorporating and embodying the divinity of God, you're gonna you're just going to be more in resonance with information, and it's just going to give validation rather than you're seeking. Okay, because again, you don't want to get caught up in like an overstimulation situation. Okay, all right. So I wrote, everything is connected. You can't have the sun and not the moon. Okay, be very wary of those that are trying to talk about the moon being evil. Okay, the moon represents femininity. Okay, if you pay attention, anyway, I'm not going to get into it. Pay attention to people who speak like that. What are their relationship likes with their divine counterpart? Okay, if they have one, look at the women. I'm telling you, look at the women. All right. Don't get caught up in what you're seeing physically as like in man. I'm talking about use your spiritual eyes, cultivate your spiritual eyes. The sun represents knowledge, masculine, physical. The moon represents wisdom, feminine, and the subconscious. They go together. This is why I'm saying when a man finds God, finds his feminine counterpart, she literally will bring wisdom to his life. And not only that, she's a direct reflection. So whatever thing that that man has not overcome, whether it be lust, anger, greed, again, guilt, shame, if he starts echoing, you need to really, as a woman, see, are you a reflection of this? And if you are, because usually there's an attraction, you need to start doing your own shadow work. You must maintain your divinity regardless of what masculine comes toward you. Okay, because we're literally just reflecting. Now, what starts happening as well is that there's some masculines who are trying to ascend. They're trying to get in contact with their own femininity. And so they will see your light as a divine feminine embodied because you are a feminine XX chromosome. Okay, they may want to strive for that, which is not a bad thing. Okay, this is why just even your presence, even the presence of God is a gift. Okay, so even just your presence helps cultivate his divine femininity, and he can ascend and actually find a true reflection. It doesn't mean that you actually are this person's mate, but this is where he wants to go. He wants to embody more of this femininity. He wants to train his own feminine energy to be a representative of what you're carrying naturally. Okay, again, natural. You got to be natural before you become supernatural. Okay, so take note of that. All right. Be mindful of men who are talking against the moon. It means that they're not trying to cultivate the divine femininity. They want to cling to this macho man thing. And it's not about that. I want you to move in divine masculinity, which doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean you have to walk around doing your nails and all this other stupid stuff. It means security. It means being actual secure with yourself because you have attained the divine masculine principles. Okay. Now, women, you must also embody this because remember, you got your energy from your father figures as well as your mother figures. You teach if you were not surrounded by divine masculine men, I promise you that you're going to have the traits of the people that you've slept with, the wounded masculine. So if you know you have given birth or procreated with a man who did not take on his responsibilities or don't care for his children, you are going to be walking around with that toxic energy until you decide to cleanse and actually surround yourself with divine masculine men who can help you fix that by watching and observing their behavior. Okay? But what starts happening with that too is that the women, at the cost of their hearts, because they loved wounded masculine men, they start embodying this toxic energy and they treat those around them with this energy. And I observe it. Okay? I've observed it. Pay attention to a woman and how she treats her friends, her feminine friends. If she was walking around with that toxic, wounded masculine that's now embodied into her because she has sacrificed her heart for either lust, okay, envy, because some women will sleep with men just so other women, some women will sleep with men just because they don't want other women to have access to them, which is again made up in their brains, okay, because you have no control of that. Okay, there's some people who don't live for the approval of others. They move divinely with God. What does God say? And that's an internal conversation. All right, they could care less about the public opinion. All right, as a matter of fact, I personally don't really trust people who live too much for the public opinion of others. Okay, it's like, who's leading you? Okay, the masses, that's whatever. Okay. Authenticity over everything. That's with me. Authenticity over everything. Okay. Back to us saying that some people who are embodying this toxic masculinity are in feminine form. See how they speak to other women. How How do they speak to their friends? How do they do conflict resolution? There's a lot of different things, okay? But remember, everything is connected. Everyone has their place. Everyone has their space in order to ascend. Some people we help up. On this particular channel, I don't have to put you down in order to raise you up. Anything that I'm saying here is all for awareness purposes only, and I trust that you're able to ascend it in your own time. Okay? Okay. All right. So women, the biggest challenge here, regardless of where you are, whether or not you've partaken in this stuff in the past, because Lord knows, lust be taking us out. And I think, again, it was strategically done so because ever since this idea that America conquered the moon, physically it's a representation of the American standard, the American culture taking over the divine, the feminine, they won't call it divine, the feminine consciousness. Okay? The feminine standard of beauty was set by this culture, and that's the paradigm that most of us are. Okay. Divine femininity is not attracted to knowledge. She is attracted to wisdom. Okay? Do not seek this. I've seen a lot of wounded masculine or masculines that intend to, I guess, replace your connection with God, or to insert themselves between you and the connection with God as some type of leader. This, again, is all based off ego. Okay? This is why a lot of you feminine energy, you don't really belong in these institutions of religion. You really don't, but I understand everyone has their own place and foundation of things, which I think you can use it as a foundation. And then you must also cultivate this energy within yourself. Okay, because all you're doing is giving that energy to, you're just outsourcing that energy. Okay, when you don't have to. Okay, there's this idea, and they try to beat you in submission with this idea that men lead, men are the head, and then that just makes you the tail. Okay, no. Divine partnerships. Okay, divine partnerships, divine femininity, right, and divine masculinity. When you heal your wounds, when your divine feminine can heal the wounds of your own divine masculine, okay, you then become high vibrational. Okay, and then you attract that in a man who embodies the divine masculinity, and he can find divine masculinity by connecting with his femininity, so he can also heal his heart, maybe able to have access to his heart chakra, and then also move divinely with his masculinity, with his masculine principles, and then you guys can procreate high vibrational creations. Okay, not just, that's a high vibrational life as well as high vibrational children, and the children can be anything, right? It doesn't have to be flesh and blood, but yes, that too, as well as whatever it is that you guys decide that you want to make happen in this world. Okay, creating high vibrational life. Okay, choosing to live consciously is a choice to serve a God that is, did I say unconsciously? Choosing to live unconsciously is a choice to serve a God that is dead in spirit. True that. Okay, it's a choice. If you're given some kind of wisdom or knowledge and you have not implemented it to be wisdom, I'm not saying you're going to get everything right, but there's certain pitfalls that you should know by now. I shouldn't say should, that you're able to recognize. Okay, you're getting older. We're all just getting older. Okay, and I'm looking at the new generation coming up. Some of these girls they're getting it real fast. I applaud you. Okay, I applaud you, but remember your humility. Remember your humility, because the elders are always watching. Okay, so don't get too big for your britches that nobody could tell you anything. Okay, humility is key for divine femininity, and patience. Okay, those are two very important things. Okay, so when a woman decides to relinquish this power to men, usually in exchange for lust, trinkets, attention, or simply due to them being tired of the responsibility of being God, that comes with carrying the extra chromosome, calamity is bound to follow. Men have already proven that they cannot handle the duties of embodying the spirit of God. It actually, like I said, It's a responsibility to carry an XX chromosome, right? Who you decide to partake in contractual agreements, whether it be bringing life, using your vessel as a portal to bring life here. You're saying that, yes, I choose this man to procreate with. Now, if you have not done you are not patient to see what this man is about on any principle level, you need to be able to take accountability for that and try to amend that in the creation that you're creating, especially if that man abandons. You are now the antidote of healing. Your divine femininity is the antidote of healing that child. Okay. Now, there is going to be a time, a season, where the child's going to be like, there's another part of me, this masculine energy that was not present. I need to go. She's going to go seek. He's going to go seek. Okay. And then he's going to embody that DNA strands of the masculine counterpart. Sins of the father fall on the children, kind of thing. And then it's for them to have the eyes to see why it is, they're choosing divinity over staying on the level in which they're one of their creators decide to stay on. Okay, that's why it's imperative, whether it be a man, woman, must take care of your children. You must. You must take care of your creations, especially if they're living, breathing works of God. Okay, or else you're going to be capped in the spirit, in some way. Okay, and this is anything. Just again, if you don't have the divine masculinity, that's the part that needs to happen first in everything. Okay. You need to cultivate your divine masculinity to help that. Okay. Or else you're going to see the, calamity, okay, of that decision that was made. Sorry. And I feel like I'm straying. Give me a second. Okay. I know I was trying off a little bit. What I'm just basically trying to say is that you must take responsibility of creations, especially if they're living and breathing. During your life's journey, if one of the parents have abandoned, as long as they're living, there is going to be a call to actually go and see. And when you go and see, you have the eyes to see, to make your own adjustments. And sometimes you may be even happy that you did not continue that because you didn't want your consciousness being shaped in a certain way. If your mother decided to move divinely and actually separate herself from certain levels of consciousness that she did not want to embody because she realized that the union wasn't marked in divinity, right? You respect that choice because you don't want the happiness of the mother shapes the children. Okay? The happiness of the mother shapes the children. All right. She must move divinely, even if she was not doing it before, especially once the child has arrived. She must make the decision to move in divine femininity and have that love for herself. Okay. With that being said, she needs to surround herself with divine masculines. Now, the task for her at that point is to overcome whatever mark of the wounded masculine that has inflicted upon her heart, inflicted upon her vessel, because she will embody it. Okay, whether it be the lust, she still has to transcend the masculine energy. She still has to do that. Okay, the first step was to actually acknowledge her divine femininity and get out of certain situations that were not moving divinely. Especially children are a big trigger point for that. Okay, the love that a mother has for her child triggers her to want to be better, want to do better. Okay, it's the masculines or the wounded masculines that try to control or inhibit that in some kind of way. And like I said, the women at this point are also embodying it. So you just got to be really mindful how you're moving in the streets. And if you're a man listening to this right now, make sure that you keep your heart place protected, because it's going to be required to cultivate your own divine femininity. Okay? Keep cultivating, surround yourself with divine masculine men who understand and value divine femininity, which that speaks before anybody speaks. Okay. Okay. So we're at 34. Let's go. Allow your human form to embody divinity. Find the resonance. You will find the resonance, and you will find the reflection. Shadow work reveals the connection if you are satisfied with the results they yield in the physical. Shadow work reveals the connection. I should just say, are you satisfied with the results they yield in the physical? Okay, that's a question for you to ask. When you look around, okay, you're doing your shadow work, the people that you have closest to you, especially your partners, people you're allowed enter your body, right? And for the masculines, the people that you are going into their body, make sure that they are, what does it reveal, right? What does it reveal about you? Okay, pay attention. As you ascend, giving credit to those embodying consciousness that helped you gain understanding. Okay, I would say for me, as I was ascending and gaining certain codes when I was in the underworld, when I decided to leave the presence of God to go do, oh, I was gonna, what does it say? Hood rat shit with my friends. Okay, you give credit, right? Because there's people who've been through different layers of the underworld and they've come back, and we're happy to see them return. Okay, and we give credit to that. Okay, um, more so than that, though, is that I have also paid attention and paid in genuine interest. Okay, I paid them back in genuine interest. So, thank you. Be selective of whom you allow to gain access to heaven. The price is your heart. That's for the women out here, okay, especially. Be selective of whom you allow to gain access to heaven. Okay, the price will be your heart. Don't lead the youth in the same hard lessons if you can guide them to ascend past some of the, what does that say? Trial and error. If you can guide them to ascend past some of the trial and error, give them a strong foundation. Okay, so yeah, so be mindful of that. Some people who have not transcended their divine femininity, and still moving in wounded masculines of envy, competition energy, because that's really a masculine quality that is in a wounded space, because divine feminine women understand that what is for them is for them, right? So we don't have to compete with you. When you start seeing that, I feel like every time I do one of these messages, I always have to reference this anyway, right? Just ill. Okay, no thank you. But if you can help it, the ones coming up, try to guide them in the right way so that you don't get into envious energy and want to see them fall in the way you fell because you feel like they had more than you had. All this competition of old, new, young, old. It's all very stupid. Okay, you're on your own timeline. You're in your own thing. Okay. To be patient is to be feminine, to allow the resonance to be clear. You can only fake but so long, eyes to see and the ears to hear. To pinpoint true resonance, where are they vibrating? Okay. So like I said, not everybody is a true reflection of you. Some people embody things that you've already conquered and you were actually there to help. Give them the codes or give them the links, in order to get themselves out of it. If they have not humbled themselves or don't know the idea of Hekima wisdom, right? If they haven't gotten to that point of humility yet, Unyekevu, if they haven't gotten to that energy field yet, there's nothing much you can do. Consciousness must be agreed upon to be embodied. Okay, like I said, they rather cling to the devil. They rather cling to these lower level temptations, rather than ascend and be in the presence of God. Okay, don't relinquish that power blindly. Don't get out of your body. You required to be present. Your presence is required to see the signs. Okay, like I said, the presence of God. Okay, if you allow God to be in your vessel, it's a consciousness, it's a frequency. If you allow that frequency to be embodied, okay, you can be present. Okay, so be mindful who you're conducting ritualistic behaviors with. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. The wounded masculine dwells in men and women at this point. I said that multiple times throughout this video. Women fall through many layers of hell for some of us to be born. Okay, yeah. Some women descend into deep levels of the underworld. Okay, these are the women who sometimes get addicted to drugs. These are the women who actually get addicted to lust, or sacrifice their divinity for monetary wealth. And this is the idea of prostitution. It's not a put down. It's just what it is, right? It is what it is. And some people are born into this situation, and my heart goes out to you. And like I said, light. Okay. However, that's the reality of certain situations, is that some people are born into this. Some people choose to go into it. Okay. It's a choice. Okay. Do not allow the physical. And as you're going on this journey, by the way, you're going to get stripped away of things. Okay. And then these things are going to come up as possible avenues. Okay. You may lose something. You may not have a shelter over your head, depending on whatever choices you've decided to make, or your bloodline have decided to make. But you're here now. But I promise you, things are only in seasons. It has everything to do with choices you make. All right. If you think that the only way that you can get money is by selling your pum pum, then that's the reality in which you're going to create. Okay. Divine masculinity, like I said, you have to establish your own principles. You have to, and I don't encourage anyone doing this. I don't encourage it. Okay. I know a lot of women grow up with these things about sexuality because they're actually probably very fertile, probably have a lot of life force energy, and then it gets misdirected in different areas, especially when they're around wounded masculine who wants to control. Okay, and they have already realized that life force energy equates to monetary gain and wealth. Okay, and so they get manipulated out of their own divinity. Okay. But for those, like I said, those who have the eyes to see and are just getting older, and you've stumbled upon this video, please know that it's a choice and you must ascend higher than that in order to create a better reality for yourself. Okay. Use your life to restore your glory. Pay attention to both your father and mother. Which spirits do they embody? If they have passed, pay attention to yourself and transcend them. Okay. I wrote this already. Some people rather be comforted by the devil than be humble before God. Comforted by temptation, lust, greed, addiction, they will call confusion upon themselves to avoid the acknowledgement of the fall. Anger, they rather feel the vigoration of that for a few seconds rather than humble themselves before God. Those are the people whom are denied access to the light of God, knowledge, presence of God, which brings forth hell. When you descend to hell, navigate the underworld wisely with the wisdom you have already attained. Navigate with whichever codes you divinely already accumulated. People descend to attain fragments of themselves. I spoke about that earlier. Follow your North Star and you will naturally move out of resonance with this stuff. You'll naturally ascend. You are not to interfere with anyone's personal choice to serve their master. You are not a savior. We're not crucified to be no savior. You can't serve two masters. It's either the entity of confusion or the entity of divinity, right? There are those who preach and those whom actually live. Ask yourself, how many trips to hell do you have to take to gain your wisdom? Everything is connected and serves a divine purpose. That's why we're not really mad about any of this, right? And we don't judge anyone because it's all part of the divine play and it's necessary. Okay, projecting light to those whom can't sustain it. Don't get into people pleasing and don't try to get involved in other people's soul journey. Okay, it's either they get it or they don't. Due to them not going through certain rites of passage on a soul level or an energetic level through their bloodline. Okay, there's certain things that you personally or your bloodline have ascended from. Everyone has that choice to be made, and everyone has their own journey to accomplish. Okay. With that being said, those were the notes. All right.